All right, guys, let's talk a little retail. Foot Locker's bleak earnings report last week, shedding light on the sneaker industry as a whole. Foot Locker shares plummeted 28% down on Friday, closing down nearly 7.5% today, and its struggles are causing a ripple effect for companies like Nike, like Under Armour, like Adidas across the board. Joining us now, friend of the show, Josh Luber, also CEO of StockX. Josh, as always, it's lovely to have you on the show. What kind of impact is this having on high-end or even high-priced sneaker brands, considering that Foot Locker doesn't seem to be doing very well with sales?
Yeah, look, it's really the inverse. It's the fact that we've been seeing this for quite some time now, and the resale sneaker market has often been looked at as a leading indicator for retail, and in particular for Foot Locker. Foot Locker for the past 5 years has had a really great run on the back of Air Jordans, on the back of the retro Air Jordan craze, shoes that were selling out at retail in moments and then reselling on secondary markets like StockX for sometimes 2, 3, 5 times retail. That doesn't exist as much anymore. In the past year, 18 months, Jordan has really continued to oversupply their retros. They don't sell out the way they used to, and that's got to have an impact on Foot Locker's business.
Now, we also talk about the brands at the same time we talk about the retailers, because they are avenues for them to make money, brands like Nike. So what kind of impact does it really have on Nike's standing and popularity when the Foot Lockers of the world don't do well?
Oh, look, Nike has for the longest time now used Foot Locker as its display showroom, right? Nike's been shutting down Nike stores and Nike towns across the country. There's really not that many non-discount Nike stores left across the country. They rely on places like Foot Locker, and in particular Foot Locker and the House of Hoops, that's a Foot Locker Nike collaboration, to be their showroom for those stores. So if less people are going into Foot Locker, then less people are being exposed to Nike sneakers the way that they've used to be, and that's got to have an impact as well.
Well, Josh, we know that Foot Locker, at least as far as their earnings statement, their CEO coming out, and some would consider it blaming the likes of Nike and Adidas and Under Armour, saying, hey, they're just not giving us innovative enough products at this point. I mean, is innovation in the shoe space dying at this point, or is it really just the fact that Foot Locker can attribute some of its slowing sales down to the fact that foot traffic in mall is significantly down? I mean, Nike did report very strong quarterly earnings along with Adidas, so clearly the innovation is there to some extent.
Absolutely, right? It's certainly not fair to blame it 100% on the brands or lack of innovation at the brands. Look, at the highest level, we all understand what's happening to retail. We all understand what's happening to brick and mortar. We all understand trends online, trends to experiential retail, Amazon, etc. But you know, the sneaker brands have been putting out innovative product. Have they been putting out innovative product at the level that they used to compared to what's in Foot Locker? Maybe not, right? Foot Locker is really heavy Nike, it's really heavy Jordan, it's really heavy basketball, it's really heavy performance. And at the level that the trends are going for today, it's more about the Adidas type shoes, the more casual shoes. So maybe there's not as much innovation in the categories that are driving the growth for Foot Locker that are for the rest of the market today. But there's obviously a lot of factors here that contribute to this.
I mean, aside from design and style, what can you do with shoes? I mean, in terms of innovation, like what are these retailers expecting out of Nike and Under Armour? I mean, we have Nike with their self-lacing sneakers. They cost $720. That's not a very sustainable business model to have limited edition shoes of that nature. But in general, what can they be doing to be more innovative from a shoe perspective?
That's a great one. I'm glad you actually brought that up. So Nike has put out a handful of these self-lacing shoes, $720 retail. It's a fabulous story. It's a super cool shoe. Is that possibly going to drive millions of pairs sold today? No, absolutely not. So what does that mean for the future, right? Maybe at some point when 20 to 30% of Nike shoes are self-lacing and they make $99 models, maybe that impacts Foot Locker. But we are a long way from a couple thousand pairs at $720 at retail to a mass market shoe. And so to see this really big innovation leaps at the high price point, it's great for marketing. It does not translate to retail sales today.
Josh, is the death of the Jordan brand, is that perhaps imminent on some levels? I mean, there have been so many other entrants to the market in terms of these higher end shoes, a lot more partnerships between major brands. I mean, you have Rihanna and Puma has the new one. I think we were talking to you about it last week with, is it The Weeknd? I don't remember if it was Puma or Adidas, but Adidas obviously has their partnership with Kanye West. Those Yeezys, very popular across the board, where now, you know, these big name athletes, those aren't necessarily the people that are really pushing shoes onto consumers where they're lining up.
So you're absolutely right with regard to the proliferation of artists instead of athletes. Lots of other brands leverage them. There's no way, though, that I'd go so far as to say that we're looking at the death of Jordan Brand. No way. I mean, look, right now they're in a mode where they're a little bit oversaturated with the product that's out there. But, you know, sneaker supply schedule is a 18 to 24 month leeway. So a lot of these decisions were made maybe 2 years ago. But we do see some artists working with Jordan Brand, Drake, Travis Scott, and they understand the game, and it's Jordan and it's Nike, so there's no way that we're counting them out. They might be down right now, but there's no way we're counting them out.
All right, before we get to our next set of questions, what are those little things on the windowsill behind you? Your little friends over
behind your right shoulder.
Yes.
Introduce them to the world.
Yeah.
The call styles, they kind of move around depending on what day it is. Today they're there to, they have one eye, so they can see the eclipse from that angle. But these are actually two of the Cause dolls. Cause is a very popular artist and creates different dolls. He's had a couple collaborations with Jordan Brand, a recent one that sold for as much as $2,000, and friends of the show, so we like to keep them around.
Are you selling them on your site?
Not yet, although we may have some announcements to make in the next couple weeks.
All right, well, we'll definitely be listening. Josh, you got to tell us, though, before we let you go, what are the hottest releases this week on the StockX marketplace?
I don't think it's a coincidence that we were talking about the fact that Jordans aren't selling as much at Foot Locker, that today the hottest shoe or the big release this past weekend was actually this Adidas pair right here. It's called the NMD Sachiko, and it's a shoe designed off some traditional Japanese stitching, actually 3 different colors, retailed for $170, and the Adidas NMD as a model has been one of the hottest all year, so no surprise that this was the big release this weekend.
Very nice. And why are they kind of like a traditional Japanese stitching? Like, what makes them that way?
Well, it's actually the pattern that you see here is meant to represent. To my knowledge, it's not actually done in that model, but it's represented of the patterns that are done with that particular model of Japanese stitching.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, there we have it. Thanks so much for joining us as always. See you next week. Josh Luber, CEO of StockX.